All right, wonderful. So I am so happy to introduce or reintroduce you to Quimby and Ben, who are joining us from the Vermont Assistive Technology Program. And Quimby has lost her voice a little bit, so she is going to be responding by chat. Please feel free to pop any questions into the chat as we go along. And Ben is going to be presenting for us. I will be hosting those slides from my computer. So let me go ahead and start sharing those and make sure that works.
Yeah, sorry you have to hear my scruffy voice for the entire time.
Perfect. Can everyone see the slides?
Yep.
Excellent.
Yes, thank you.
All right, so I'm going to mute myself and turn it over to you, Ben.
All
And
right.
as we said, any questions, please feel free to pop those in the chat as we go. Thank you.
I think it's pretty obvious at this point, but we're just trying to give you guys an overview of our services. You know, kind of how to start, what we do, what we don't do, a little bit of the gray area that we may help a little bit in, but we're not really the be all end all, and sort of how our services work, you know, from nuts and bolts to maybe having some time at the end to answer some deeper questions that you may have. And Quimby is going to interject in the chat. We've already done a little run through so that if I screw up, I'm totally comfortable with her interjecting. And we've done this presentation or ones like it several times before, and we're kind of like yin and yang with each other. So even without her voice, I'm sure Quimby's going to have a lot to add. You can go ahead and advance the slide. All right, a little bit about me. I've been here for 7.5 years. I have a degree in sociology and American studies and sociology from Keene State. My first piece of assistive technology that was called assistive technology to me was a CD-ROM, which we don't even use anymore. But they could hold, back in the early 90s, they could hold more information. And the first piece of software I used was called Write Out Loud, which was a basically a text prediction program, but it also would repeat sentences to me so that I could make sure I picked the words I wanted. Because I think when I used this software, I was probably in first or second grade. Um, what do I love about? It's cut off, but I think that question is, what do I love about my job? The people. Um, I I really like taking someone's Mount Everest and turning it into a molehill for them. Um, Sometimes it takes a little time, but we get it done. What is my favorite? I'm gonna guess that says pastime, because again, uh, it's a little cut off by people's faces, which I don't mind. But I love spending time outdoors in any way, shape, or form. I have an outdoor wheelchair that looks like a tank, so I literally like drive over logs and I go hunting, I go fishing. If it's outdoors and it's above 32 degrees, I'm probably out there, and I'm not working. So next slide.
I'm going to use my voice just a little bit for this and then
Okay.
to chat. So thank you all for bearing with me. Definitely lost my voice. Hopefully it's just allergies. I am newer to the program, just a little over a year. And my background is as an occupational therapy assistant in a variety of settings. Really love being able to bring that experience to this world where I can, meet with folks from all ages and collaborate with my colleagues. We come from different backgrounds, so whether it's a question about switch control, and our colleague Tracy knows so much about engineering. We just all bring so many different talents to the table, and I just love how creative we can be consulting with folks. My first piece of AT was probably a pencil grip. I definitely had that really intense callus on my middle finger because I was gripping the pencil so hard. So I have a strong memory of that, as well as strategies for self-regulation and, managing any stress throughout the school day. And I really love cross-country skiing this winter. And as we look ahead into the spring, which is finally here, I'm looking forward to more time, hiking and walking outside, and love, anything with the arts.
Okay, what is assistive technology? So you can tell by the pictures here, it's a pretty wide gamut of things, but you can go ahead and advance the slide. So this is our favorite term for assistive technology. There's all sorts of definitions out there, but we haven't been hot about this for probably a month or two, a few years ago. And this is the most simple definition we came up with. Assistive technology is a term for creative tools and strategies that help people work or live, learn, work, and play, also known as AT. So when we think about the assistive technology, when Quimby and I, or Tracy, or any of our other counterparts are kind of assessing somebody's needs, in the back of our heads, we're using this tech spectrum. So it starts with no tech. Changing their environment required tasks for tools or their schedule. So it may be something as simple as letting somebody start. I'll just use me as an example. Prior to the pandemic, I worked at a different office and I rode the bus to work, and I needed my hours to obviously adapt around the bus schedule so I could get to work on time and work my hours and then go home. Another example of that is, how many people have an office right next to a copier or something, or right next to the mailboxes? It can get pretty distracting for somebody with focus issues, or I'll be honest, I've got ADD. My office for a while was right next to the copier and the mailboxes, and it was so distracting every time somebody walked by. So again, a no-tech solution for that would be moving somebody's office. It doesn't really have to be anything fancy. The low-tech solutions are the off-the-shelf techniques. So the pencil grips, the smart pens, I don't know, Dyson for making sure something doesn't fall off of a table or move around when you're trying to use it. It's check writers for visually impaired. About 80 to 90% of what we have in our inventory would be those low-tech solutions. They're really simple to grab off the shelf, and even if Quimby and I weren't there, you should be able to Google what you need to find out about the item and hopefully figure it out on your own. The last piece is those high-tech complex solutions. A lot of times it is the AAC apps with speech. It's some of the higher end environmental control setups these days that are often tied into speech apps as well. We do have those apps available, but if somebody really needs some high-tech high-end solutions, we often work with vendors so that we can come up with the most comprehensive software package for these high needs related things. And we work with regional techs that know us and our programs really well. So that if we are working on a high-tech solution and it's above our heads, we have help too. Quimby and I are both very skilled, but we're asked to be generalists in a lot of different fields. We're actually internally changing our titles from assistive technology specialists to assistive technology consultants, just so that it hopefully gives that feeling that we're not the be all end all, but we do know an awful lot. You can go ahead and advance the slide. So about our program, we offer services throughout the state from Brattleboro to Newport because of a federal AT grant. Also, what we refer to as our core services grant, we do have some funding with vocal rehab and stuff, which we may or may not talk about today. I can't remember, to be honest with you. It's been a long day. We serve all ages, disabilities, and aging-related needs. That's really important because people seem to think sometimes that we only do the iPads, we only do the higher tech stuff. No, we do everything from, I always say, from birth to dirt. If there's a need and it's related to anything in that definition I shared earlier, we will try to get you off on the right foot and provide you the services you need. The next best thing that's great about us is we don't require, there's no eligibility requirements, referral, or paperwork needed. We love paperwork if you can give it to us, because it gives us a deeper, more rich understanding of who you are and who your barriers are, but it's by no means required to get in the door with us. It is extremely helpful, but it's not, we don't want paperwork and diagnosis and all that stuff to be a barrier for somebody getting services. We even take it a step farther. And if your niece twice removed needs some assistive technology and you're curious about it, you can call about it, just as long as the person you're inquiring about lives in the state of Vermont and they're the ones you're getting the services, we can help you. Go ahead and advance the slide. And Quimby, did you say something? I want to make sure I'll open it and check. Oh, okay. Quimby was just saying that, bringing up another high-tech solution like eye gaze for computer controls. So what eye gaze is it probably is what it sounds, but it's basically using your eyes to control the computer, both mouse and keyboard. And we are going to talk about vocal rehab, also known as, their new official name is Hireability Vermont. So nice catch there, Quimby. And then I am going to talk about our funding stream and try not to mess this up because it does get complicated. First of all, before I ramble anymore, does anybody have any questions either in the chat or want to turn their microphones on and ask anything? I don't hear anybody yet. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our funding structure. So we get our funding federally from the Administration on Community Living, or ACL, and then it goes to Dale at in the state, also known as the Department of Disabilities and Aging and Independent Living. Then it goes to our program, the Vermont Assistive Technology Program. And then in my case and Tracy Ruth's case, we are UVM contracted employees to do the field service work that Quimby does. Quimby, Tracy, and I do the same job. We just have different funding structures. So my position and Tracy's position is covered by a grant to CDCI. You can go to the next slide. This map is a little out of date, but this just shows you the map physically is out of, or the picture of the map is out of date. The territories that are listed are up to date. Burlington serves Franklin, Grand Island, and Chittenden counties. Waterbury serves Washington, Lamoille, Caledonia, Essex, Orleans, and Orange counties. And I serve out of Castleton University, Bennington, Windsor, Rutland, Addison, and Windham counties. So this is our new, moved, and revamped Burlington Tryout Center. Quimby, do you want to talk about this or do you want me to take it?
Yeah, I mean, if people can hear me with this sort of soft voice that I luckily have today, I had no voice yesterday. um, so the Burlington Child Center is now on the same floor as the Higher Ability office downtown on Cherry Street in Burlington. We moved during the course of pandemic, and we've been closed to the public, but we are open now, and folks can use our services in person or virtually. We're going to keep that hybrid model throughout. And we've set up the space so that one side is sensory friendly. We've blocked out with this rice paper, divider, all the visual distractions from the hundreds of pieces of equipment we have stored there. So folks can sit in there. It's, blue and green and white, and just has a low level of light if folks need that, and fluorescent light coverings as well. So adjustable, sit to stand desks and whatnot. So I'm sure I'll be tweaking that as time goes on, but set up half the space to be more sensory friendly, which is nice.
Yeah, Quimby's done an excellent job. I'm gonna have her come down and put her eyes on MySpace and put her spin on it eventually here. She's done a wonderful job. I went up this past summer and went, whoa, you did this all by yourself? Because poor Quimby has been remote 99.9% of the time since she started, and she's done a great job, and she's a great resource for her region. And I also lean on her a lot as well, because she knows so much about areas that I don't. And as she was saying before, we have a nice balance of uh, areas of expertise and passion. I wouldn't say that any of us are experts in any area, but we really do have a nice wide net of what we're passionate about, what we're knowledgeable about, and we lean on each other really heavily with almost no delay. I at least get called or emailed once or twice a day, and I'm sure Quimby does as well. Hey Ben, do you know about this? Or we work really well as a team, and it's really seamless. It doesn't cause any delay to our consumers. So you can go to the next slide if you'd like. So this, I don't know if you want to talk more about this with me, but this is
Yeah.
the
I just have a few more slides just for a quick virtual tour of the new Burlington office. So this is all the stuff we have. So very, very packed. We're always getting new equipment in. For example, we just got a whole bunch of different adaptive utensils for feeding, for young kids and children. We did have a lot of utensils for older adults, but they were way too small. The utensils we had were way too large for a child's hand. So now we have a more variety, but we're always recycling in. So we have the latest equipment that's still available and discontinued. AT goes into our AT exchange, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but this just shows you kind of the wide range. We've got, smart home equipment, switches. We have that white cube is called a little room. It's an active learning space for kids who might have low vision or blindness. It's a way for them to kind of explore safely different objects with textures and sounds, and the vibrations from the wooden board are kind of picked up in their body as they lay in that sort of denning environment. So that's something that I built. And then we have a lot of off-the-shelf sensory equipment, stuff for, for like phones for amplifying conversations, voice amplifiers as well, which I definitely would need today. So anyways, a wide range. And we just have a couple more slides, so we'll go through quickly. Just another view of more equipment on display here. We can go to the next slide. We have a lot of things for adaptive recreation as well. You'll see a Strider bike without pedals, so the child can balance more easily with both feet on the ground to pedal. Or, for example, there is a hoop extension for playing basketball, and then stored within that is a soccer ball with bells, so if someone with low vision could hear the ball coming towards them. So wide range of adaptive gaming. Really try to make it fun. You can go to the next slide. I can keep going if people can hear me okay.
Yeah.
So it's just highlighting a couple pieces of sensory equipment. We had an intern who is graduating this year from UVM and going to get her doctorate in occupational therapy. She created this sensory apron, which is made out of jean fabric on one side and a sort of blue felt on the other. So it's soft and kind of understated and can be really personalized for any age, really. She made it with older adults in mind, since we have so much sensory equipment for kids, but certainly kids could use this in the classroom or at a vaccination appointment, doctor's appointment, to keep hands fidgeting and calm bodies. There are carabiners here. You can attach personal toys, a zippered pocket to add, chapstick or lotion that might be alerting or calming thing for somebody, as well as this ribbon with beads on it to fidget with. So that was great. Her name was Sophie, and she made this for us to have and loan out. Our loan program we'll talk about a little bit more in detail, but it's free and available to anyone to borrow as many tools as you like for about 30 days at a time. Another sensory item I wanted to feature here is this foot fidget. It's inflatable, sort of like a rubberized material that goes right underneath your feet. I actually use it every day when I'm in the office. You can just place your feet right on top and just kind of pulse your feet, and you'll kind of get some movement there, which is really helpful to increase focus for one use. We also have a switch adapted pillow. So, for example, I loaned this out to a child who had some traumatic brain injury and some other health needs going on, and they were working on cause and effect. And this pillow is corduroy, it's soft. You can certainly operate it with the toggle switch, but to give him control over his environment and to work on that skill, we plugged in a switch into the black port cord that you see there. I think he was using a proximity switch, so he didn't have to have any pressure, but with any head movement or foot movement, depending on where you place the switch. Hi, Tamara, thank you for joining us. He could activate that pillow and it would vibrate. So that was a cool tool that we could loan out as part of his therapy program. And then we also have touch points for calm. They look like two watches, and you wear them on either side of the body. It could be on an ankle and a wrist. It could be on a book bag and another piece of clothing on the other side of the body. And basically this sends a vibration as well, which can be calming for people when you press that button in the middle of the watch. So kind of an in the moment strategy. And then wanted to also highlight some switches here that we have. Folks might be familiar with your kind of traditional jelly bean, just large colored button switch, but wanted to feature some other ones that we have. So the Bluetooth iPad adapter works as two button switches, but you can also plug in anything else for iPad control specifically. So if a child is going to be using their feet or their voice or a head tilt, or really any other way that is their strength to operate switch control on an iPad, you would need this adapter, and it's Bluetooth. It's really simple to set up, to scan through and select items on an iPad. So that's very popular, and we have a couple of them to loan out. I had mentioned this before. This is one of our proximity switches. It kind of looks like a candy corn at Halloween, which is cute. It has, let's see, I think it has auditory and visual feedback, so you know you've activated it, but no, you don't have to use any tactile, like physical touch. You just have to be within, I think it's like 1 inch range near it, and it could be Velcroed to a pillow or to a mount near the child towards a body part that they're able to move. It could even be just, your hand, you're hovering near it and it will light up. Or you can, turn those things off if the sound and the lights that give that feedback are distracting. So you have some adjustability there, which is super awesome. A couple other higher tech switches we have. So even with that, and I'll answer that question in just a second, even with the Bluetooth iPad adapter, it's pretty clunky to use with YouTube or iTunes. So we have had a lot of folks who, want to be able to control their music. So, the Praetorian Company, which both these things are from, has been really amazing in inventing lots of different devices. And this applicator on the left is specific for media, but you don't have to then switch over to your Bluetooth. You can use this all in one for iPad control. So whether you're, opening up the internet or email or iTunes, you just press one button, it'll switch from media mode back to just normal switch control, which is nice. So it's all in one. Also Bluetooth, and you can attach, whether you use the proximity switch or joystick or something like that, you can attach that, and you just need this one adapter for your iPad. Let me just see what that question was again. The proximity switch connected to a call button for a caregiver. So that's actually something that we do have requests for a lot. It will really depend on the call button setup. We've found that, if it's a really simple plug and play, I forget, is it 3.5 millimeter, I think is the size of the typical port. If it can just be plug and play and, any switch, then yes. Some call button systems are a little bit more complicated, so we'd have to work with the caregiver and with IT or whoever has set up that system to make sure that it would be compatible. But that's totally something we could brainstorm with you guys about and suggest some other companies to install. We've even installed like sip and puff devices to just kind of swap out what they had. So we have some solutions for that, definitely. So the answer is maybe, depending on the system. Oh my gosh, my voice is coming back. This is exciting.
I was just gonna say, do you want me to take over? But you actually sound like you're doing better the more you talk.
This is good. The one day of rest was good. So that J-pad that was on the other slide, just briefly, it's a joystick method for controlling the iPad instead of switch control in a sort of 2-button only setup where you're pressing those. You can swap out the tops of this joystick to be more comfortable grip depending on what that person needs. And then this green and red button can do different things, but if those are too small of a surface area for someone to press, you can plug in external switches. So have lots of joysticks as well. Go ahead. So with all of the switch choices, we have a variety of toys that have been adapted. So one that Ben has is this really fun, excuse me, T-Rex dinosaur that I'm not sure, he probably makes sounds, and I actually
he makes sounds, flashes, and walks towards you as you push the button.
Yeah,
It's fun, but it's also sort of creepy. It reminds me of something that would be like the villain in like a Transformers movie or something.
awesome. Yeah, so we've got a variety. We've got like bongo drums, we've got swirl, like painting art, bubble blowing, um, water, some sort of like water kit where you press a switch and then you see the water kind of move through all of these obstacles. So all sorts of things that might be motivating and fun to play with their friends, or work, also on eye tracking or whatever other skills. And another example we have is just wild amount of gears that you can put together, that light up and move. And I can't remember if they make sounds or not, but they probably do. So always trying to expand our library with those. Back to you, Ben. I'm going to rest my voice.
Okay. Quibi gave me the easy slides. So our centralized referral system is really easy. If you have a new person you want to us to work with, just give the phone number or the email address listed a email and we can take care of it. Please provide as much detail as possible. I don't expect it from this group, but a lot of times from the general public, we get, hi, I'm looking to learn about assistive technology. And that's all we get. So when we make the phone call, we're kind of in the dark about what you really need. So be as detailed as possible or as detailed as you would like. We're not going to get angry if you're very detailed. It really does help us do our jobs. Also, there is a form available on our website for intakes that we may be tweaking in the very near future so that we can get some more of that additional information we need. But you can go ahead and go to the next slide. So this is kind of the core of what we do. Yeah, and to answer your question, let me just pull that up really quick before I go into this slide.
So Ben, Melissa asked, I am a school-based OTA. Would I be able to borrow an item for a student or would a parent caregiver need to do that?
You can borrow it. This is how I'm going to answer that question. You can borrow the item yourself, but if they're going to be utilizing it in their home without you, I would recommend that they be the one that actually borrows the device so that if something happens to it and it needs to be replaced, that falls on them, not on you. Does that make sense? Okay. I've had some instances where OTs have borrowed an iPad for somebody and then the student gets frustrated and hucks the iPad or across the room and it gets broken. And then the OT is responsible for it because it's in their name. So that's why I just give that caveat. So a little bit about the core of what we do. I would say that a good chunk of what we do is this information and assistance category. General program questions. So what do you guys do? Kind of a little bit about a little bit of like what we're doing now. Ask us general questions. I have questions around smart homes or risk grips or um, any, I really want to find out more about that glider bike. Can you tell me about it? Info about AT related services. So maybe you're looking to purchase a more expensive piece of equipment and you need to know where to get funding. We don't provide direct funding, but we have funding partners that we work with a lot. So we can help with that. So another thing with info related services, AT related services, we may not be the appropriate service for that individual. So if somebody's got a visual disability, Vermont Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired may be a better fit. And after getting some basic information, if it sounds like they may be able to help you more, I'm going to refer you to them because they focus on just that area and they know it a little bit better than us. Like I said before, AT funding, we work with several state partners, whether it's the Vermont Center for Independent Living, um, hold a equipment distribution program that is for people with um, that need communication devices, so amplified phones, caption phones. During the pandemic, we were able, or people were able to get funding for iPads and tablets so that they could do their remote health visits through that program. And the cool thing about that is that program is funded through a item on your phone bill that nobody knows what it goes to. It's like the Vermont Universal Charge or something on your cell phone and on your landline bills, but actually, I can tell you the money is used for this program. So it actually goes to a very worthy use. Um, and obviously, the last thing about information and assistance is if you call us and we chat on the phone, or you email us and we chat on the phone, and we determine that you really do need to come into the office to see some of our equipment, to touch it, to feel it, to use it with us, and use it with our knowledge, so you can get a better feel if it's right for you. We can schedule a demonstration either virtually if it's possible, but if it's needed, we can do in-person demonstrations at this current time. And again, it just allows you to kind of get that hands-on feel of, is this going to work for me or not? And then the next part, and I believe the next slide. Oh, this is just a little bit more on equipment demonstrations. I forgot this slide was even here. This is what I get for going from one meeting to another. But our general process is to, when we're doing demonstrations, gather information. We want to know a little bit more about you. I always say before I start throwing equipment recommendations at you, that's the last thing I'm going to do, and that's the last thing Quimby does. We want to get to know you. We want to gather information about you. Maybe you have some assistive technology and it's not working, or you have some assistive technology set up already and it's not quite missing the mark. It's sort of getting there, but not quite. We want to know what you're kind of working with. Again, when we wrote this presentation, everything was currently virtual. That has changed to virtual preferred and in person if needed. I think that's how I would phrase it. Obviously, if someone's need very quickly identifies that virtual is not appropriate, that is fine. We will make in-person work, and there will not be a barrier or a delay to getting you services. Our end goal is for you to be able to ask questions about things we recommend, about what we talk about questions or concerns you have, and then making it. The end goal is whether or not you can make an informed decision on whether that piece of assistive technology is going to work for you. So one of the benefits we have too is, and I was hoping this was the next slide, and I was right because it is, but I didn't say it, so I didn't make myself look like a dork if it wasn't the next slide. Our next program feature or subset is actually equipment loans. Sometimes even if you do come into a demo, you don't know in that 1 or 2 hour demonstration if this is going to work for you. Number one, it's not your environment, it's not your home, it's not your school, it's not your work, it's not your recreational environment, whatever you're trying to accomplish. You may not know if that's going to work for you until you can actually try it where you need to apply it. So we have 30-day equipment loans. We have about 3,500 pieces of equipment spread out throughout the tryout centers and the sub offices, as I will call them. We also do have 2 smaller locations in Newport and White River Junction, but they serve just book rehab clients, so they have a much smaller inventory. Typically, loans are for 4 weeks or 30 days. There are some some instances where the AT specialist or AT consultant can elect to extend those out. I'll give you guys the best example I can. The other day, somebody wanted to borrow an iPad from me. She'd never done it before and said, geez, Ben, I just realized it's great that you can give me this for 4 weeks, but I'm only allowed, because of where the student is, and he was served by the district, but he went to an outside of the district school. This occupational therapist could only see him, or speech therapist could only see him once a week. And she said, would it be possible for you to extend this out for 6 weeks? I looked at my available iPad inventory and what I had coming back in. Knowing that school is actually going to be starting to wind down, I felt pretty comfortable extending that out to 6 weeks for her. So we can extend things out on an as needed basis. Say like you are purchasing something for somebody and you're just waiting for it to come in, let us know. If at all possible, the last thing we want to have happen is for the individual to go without if it's really working and you really are purchasing a device, you're just waiting for Amazon or whoever to deliver it. We don't want time to be a barrier to their success. Again, I should say that we ship all of our equipment for free. We have an account with UPS that it's no cost to consumers. That's both ways. When you're done, it's kind of like Amazon. When we send you a loan, we also send you a return label along with a little survey, just letting us know what your satisfaction with our service was. Not necessarily the device. I just want to make that caveat. There is a satisfaction survey at the very bottom. It's with our service, not with the device itself. Again, just to emphasize, we don't sell equipment or provide financial loans. We're prohibited to by our grants. You can go to the next slide. So our inventory is available online. Our entire inventory, so everything in there has photos, categorized. There is sometimes the price may be a little out of date, but you should be able to click on a link that's listed and get a website to come up with the most current price. You can request loans directly yourself. So this is always my bad joke that you can sit at home in your underwear at 2 o'clock in the morning and request iPads and pencil grips and balance bikes and all the wonderful things that we've talked about today from the comfort of your own home, and you don't even have to talk to us. So we do iPad loans. I would say most of our iPad loans are for AAC or speech communication devices, but we also have time management, organization, reminders, voice typing, all sorts of the alternatives that you might need an iPad for. We do have switch controls, stylus, speaker cases, key guards for some apps. Go ahead. I've already kind of generalized about this, but we have apps for note taking. We have apps for AAC. I'm running a little short on time, so I'm going to kind of skip through these a little bit. We have different types of wheelchair mounts, and we're constantly trying to add more because everybody's wheelchair is different. So they're going to need, or everybody's need is different. So they're going to need a different setup. So these are just some of the different varieties we have. Go ahead and go to the next slide. I actually talked about ADP already, so I'm going to skip that. But the Independence Fund is our partner at Vermont Opportunity Credit Union. They provide low interest loans. typically they are actually locked at 3% depending on what you need. Um, and they can be used for assistive technology. I actually utilize them myself to purchase a vehicle, which honestly can be the most stressful situation of your life. And when I worked with them, it was one of the most easy. They did everything for me. When there was problems, they took care of it. I didn't have to do it. It was awesome. Um, you can go to the next slide. So this is our community resource AT exchange. It's kind of like a Craigslist for AT. Quimby mentioned it briefly in the beginning. If you have a piece of AT you want to get rid of, or maybe you're looking for something, people list things on here either for free to sell, or if they're, again, if they're looking for something, you contact the seller directly. Again, it's like Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace for AT. We only ask that if you're, and it's in your agreement when you sign up for an account, but if you're purchasing healthcare equipment that needs to be fitted to you, you work with your healthcare provider to make sure it'll fit properly and not cause more harm than good. And again, our website for that is listed at the bottom. So we do provide trainings for a fee for businesses or groups. Say they wanted a targeted training on a specific app for AAC, or they want, I work for Castleton University or I don't work for them, I work there. I'm getting tongue tied today. That's where my office is. And when we first partnered together, they asked me, Ben, we've got some amplification systems in our larger auditoriums and in our larger classrooms. Um, can you do an assessment for us and tell us if they're out of date? I did that for them for a fee. It was something that I was knowledgeable enough, but it's outside of our scope of work and what we can do in our federal grant. So we can do that for a very reasonable fee for folks. We do provide group trainings as well. Okay. Ooh, you updated it with a new fancy logo. Good job, Quimby. I would have totally forgotten about that. So really quickly, we do work with voc rehab consumers, whether they're in the working phase of their life or they're still in school for some training or for some degrees. What that entails is that we, at the end of working with their clients, we provide a written consultation report with all the details of everything we discussed. We provide links for purchasing. We do not purchase ourselves, but most of the time when people are working with voc rehab, they get funding support directly from voc rehab, and that's why that's listed. And these kind of more comprehensive ongoing services are provided in our tryout centers. We provide, I forgot to mention, we can provide voc rehab clients with more enhanced training on a limited ongoing basis as well. Boy, I'm getting tongue tied here. Yeah, and as Quimby says, hireability / voc rehab services do not have a fee either. So our AT program newsletters, we cover a wide variety of topics. I'll kind of let you guys read through that. But if you're not signed up for our newsletters, please do. We cover, again, a huge variety of topics from accessible masking to continence products to make things easier for folks. I did one on cerebral palsy, and I knew it was Cerebral Palsy Awareness Month. I did not realize that this week, or actually today is Cerebral Palsy Awareness Day. So it was actually perfect timing that I didn't mean to line up, but it lined up very nicely. And yeah, we do have a YouTube channel. We've got what is assistive technology on there, kind of who we are, kind of a short little overview video. We talk about some specific assistive technology on there. And all of our videos are captioned. And again, these are just some more resources and list the 3 main websites we use. And I'll give a little hint, the last one there, that the CDC, the UVM website, it does have good information on there, but all that information can be found on our main website as well. It's kind of redundant, but we wanted people to be able to access it if they found us from the UVM side of the house as well. And yeah, that's just our contact information again, and you can stop sharing your screen and we can answer questions or do polls or whatever needs to be done.
Thank you, Ben and Quimby. That was great. Do we have any questions from the group? We have a couple minutes, and I am then also going to launch a poll just to see the topics that are most of interest to folks.
No problem, everybody. You're welcome.
All right, let me go ahead and launch a poll. I'm just going to ask for a little feedback about future topics that we might want to have some training on. So if you don't mind weighing in, and please feel free to add additional ideas in the chat, but these are some of the frequently chosen topics. Is that showing up for everybody? Okay, great. So I think really we would love to have more information about all the topics, and certainly I think apps and iPads comes up quite frequently for many of us in the settings that we work in. Okay, thank you for your responses. And let me go ahead and launch one more poll, just more specifically, because I thought that those apps might be of interest. Okay, I'm gonna end that. Okay, so then more specifically within the apps, what categories of apps are of highest interest for folks? I see results coming in. Thank you so much. Yeah, communication and self-care are two of the highest picks. And I would say a lot of these sensory and self-regulation supports also are of high interest to folks. All right, and then the last polling request from me, I'm gonna end this poll, thank you, is that I'm just gonna throw into the chat a brief, I think it's 2, maybe 3 survey questions just for feedback for us about how you found this survey, if it was, or how you found this training, if it was helpful for you. So I'm going to throw that up there, and would really appreciate any comments or additional information that you have to share with us. You can do that in that form too. Thank you very much. And Quimby, did you want to comment?
Well, I can share what I did in chat. I was just kind of responding to Anne's question that yes, we can see folks in person for consultations or virtual. We usually recommend kind of a quick phone call or video call first, just to kind of get a general idea of what you're looking for. And then we can schedule in person from there if that's going to be a good fit. for you, for the family, for the student, whoever it is. But we do not do formalized assessments and evaluations. That's, an occupational therapist or whoever. But, we do use, the set process, looking at the student, the environment, the task, and the tools to inform our kind of process for recommending AT, but it's not kind of a standard assessment at all. It's more kind of like, just active brainstorming session, and then we kind of try out AT, see if it's a fit.
Thanks, Quimby. I know coming from the OT side myself, it's really fun to have an OTA on staff who can help work through that process. And I do think it's just such a nice resource for collaboration, particularly for those of us that might be pediatric or school-based therapists, is who we tend to draw from in this network. And, just to have that equipment available, because so often that is a barrier, and to know that we can refer folks with really no eligibility barriers or heavy paperwork load is just such a nice resource to have in our community.
Absolutely. I will say, when I was practicing as a CODA in the school system, I was in New Hampshire at the time. I wish I had known about this program, and there's one in every state in the country. And so we're just trying to get the word out that we're free. We're the ones who have the time to research the latest technology. You as the therapist or the provider, you're doing the formalized evaluation, setting of goals, implementing the techniques and tools, but we're here as that free resource to kind of say, like, hey, have you considered this? I certainly have done, professional development throughout, including when I was a practicing CODA in those different settings. But I mean, you don't have the time to know what you don't know. So we're here to kind of fill that gap and be that missing puzzle piece and part of the team. But you certainly don't have to be working with a therapist to come see us. Like, anyone could come.
And I would say, I would encourage folks, if you haven't signed up for the newsletters, it's just so helpful in keeping abreast of what's new. And there's always something new on the AT side. So it's been really helpful to sort of have these topical newsletters coming out that sort of announce new and exciting tools that are available.
Yeah.
So I know we're at the end.
I don't like to take vacation for longer than a week, because if I do, everything changes when I get back. So
I hear you, Ben. We are, amazingly, that hour just flew by. Thank you so much to everyone for carving time out of your busy Fridays. And thank you so much to Ben and Quimby for organizing and presenting all of this information to us. It's such a great resource that's available. And I think we will do our part to spread the word. And I'm personally going to be calling you up with all sorts of questions for various situations that I encounter, for sure. And we're seeing lots of thank yous coming in from the chat. So much appreciation. I'm going to stop recording.